Hi, my name's Eric, and I'll be reading you selections from the Falmouth Enterprise. This edition is dated Friday, April 25th of 2025, and since many of our listeners enjoy hearing it on the day of publication, the weather is relevant. This afternoon, it'll be mostly sunny. At night, it will be mostly cloudy, with a high near 61 and a low around 50. Tomorrow during the day, there'll be showers with thunderstorms possible, high of 59. At night on Saturday, showers and possibly a thunderstorm, low around 47. Extended forecast for Sunday calls for mostly sunny during the day, mostly clear at night with a high around 57 and a low of 46. Headline above the fold, if there was such a thing in a digital newspaper, agreement reached on 300-unit 40B appeal. 14 conditions were amended, including wastewater requirement, by Katie Nelson. The town and the developers of the Easterly, a mammoth affordable housing project at 375 Sandwich Road, have reached an agreement on some changes to the project's comprehensive permit. The agreement, reached through legal mediation of an appeal the developers had filed with the State Housing Appeals Committee, leaves intact most of the 91 conditions the zoning board had placed on its approval of the project. The Easterly at 300 units is the largest residential project and the largest 40B project in the town's history. The Easterly has been a controversial project from the start. Opponents have said it's way too big and far too dense for the neighborhood, and the wastewater generated on the 29-acre site by the residents living there would be harmful to the environment. The conditions and findings attached to the zoning board's 37-page approval were aimed at addressing these concerns and more. Among requirements that the board imposed on the developers was that the septic system for the property be designed to reduce nitrogen in the wastewater to net zero. The developers, Falmouth Southerly LLC, also known as Saxon Partners, appealed this nitrogen requirement and other of the zoning board's conditions back in August. From there, special legal counsel for the town, George X. Pucci, and the attorney for the developers, Peter L. Freeman, entered into mediation to reach a compromise. That mediation resulted in a final decision, which was signed by Lisa V. Whalen, presiding officer of the Housing Appeals Committee. Through the mediation process, a total of 14 conditions were amended. The final agreement and the modified comprehensive permit were filed with the town clerk's office on April 11th. Among the amended requirements was net zero nitrogen discharge, which the developers argued was impossible. In the end, the town and Saxon agreed to design and construct an on-site wastewater treatment facility that will meet an annual average effluent concentration of 5 milligrams per liter of total nitrogen, which is still better than the 10 milligrams per liter Mass Department of Environmental Protection requirement. The amendment goes on to say the developers will use best operational efforts to achieve an even lower concentration, 3 milligrams per liter. The treatment facility will require a groundwater discharge permit from the Mass Department of Environmental Protection, known as the Mass DEP. The system will be designed to manage a flow of 49,950 gallons per day. When Mass DEP is issued the groundwater discharge permit, Falmouth Southerly is required to provide the board with updated plans that include elevation, dimension, and siting details for the facility. The installation of a permeable reactive barrier, known as a PRB, which uses carbon to filter out nutrient concentrations, was originally a condition of the zoning board to mitigate the nitrogen loading that will come from the project. Rather than install a PRB, an amended condition states that Saxon will donate $750,000 to the town to be used for efforts to reduce nitrogen concentrations. The Select Board will have the authority to decide how those funds will be distributed, Zoning Administrator Noreen Stockman said in a phone call. The developer also appealed the condition that would require them to build a sidewalk that extends to Brick Kiln Road in the interest of pedestrian safety. They argue that a traffic study that was conducted off-season indicated that increasing pedestrian safety measures was unnecessary. Mr. Pucci was successful in his mediation efforts to a condition that a sidewalk be installed. The amended condition stipulates Saxon will construct a sidewalk that will start east of the driveway entrance and extend to Brick Kiln Road, roughly 2,500 feet. During the public hearing process, the zoning board argued that the increase in population on Sandwich Road, when the 300 units are occupied, will inevitably lead to more dangerous conditions for pedestrians. The board added that the off-season study wasn't adequate as the population in Falmouth increases drastically during the summer. In its original findings, the board stated that the width of the road is insufficient width to support safe bicycle travel. Ms. Stockman said an additional traffic study in peak season to support the board's position isn't necessary because Saxon has agreed to the amended condition. The mix of bedrooms throughout the 300-unit project has also been changed. Before mediation, the mix of apartments included 175 one-bedroom units, 95 two-bedroom units, and 30 three-bedroom units. The project will now have 185 one-bedroom units, 85 two-bedroom units, and 30 three-bedroom units. Of the 300 apartments, 75 units will be affordable in perpetuity. The maximum development permitted by the zoning board to accommodate the units is 5 four-story buildings. Amenities on site include a clubhouse, a management office, work-from-home spaces, lounge areas, a mail and package center, and a fitness center. Any increase in what's been listed is in violation of the modified comprehensive permit. The town was successful in mitigating construction machinery in residential neighborhoods. The updates permit conditions that construction vehicles and equipment will not be permitted to access Pitch Pine Lane off Parker Mills Road. The conditions outline that the driveway to the development will be private and the responsibility of the owners to maintain. Inspections completed by the engineering department and the Department of Public Works will occur prior to any construction. Residents will be able to move into the units when all work on landscaping, drainage, and other improvements are completed. The amended conditions state that Saxon partners can apply for a temporary certificate of occupancy if a bond for remaining work is posted. Ms. Stockman said it's difficult to predict when construction will begin, noting that the project still needs its groundwater discharge permit from Mass DEP. The next headline, Jury Delivers Split Verdict in Case Against Falmouth Investment Advisor by Devin Ankeny. A jury in federal court this week found in favor of Falmouth investment advisor Jeffrey T. Cutter on 2 charges and against him on 1 other charge brought against him by the U.S. Securities and Exchange Commission. The jury found that Mr. Cutter, president of Cutter Financial Group on Davis Straits, failed to disclose certain commissions and conflicts of interest to his prospective and active clients, a violation of Section 206(2) of the Investment Advisors Act. The SEC specifically noted the clients not adequately informed about those commissions were current or future retirees. The jury, however, cleared Mr. Cutter of claims alleging he intentionally defrauded clients or failed to implement adequate compliance policies and procedures. The SEC, which is a U.S. government agency regulating the securities industry to protect investors, promote fair and efficient markets, and prevent fraud, filed its complaint against Mr. Cutter in March of 2023. In that complaint, the SEC claimed Mr. Cutter reaped at least $9,340,302 between 2014 and 2022 in commissions from the sale of 580 annuities. The SEC claimed a portion of that commission amount was undisclosed. Ian Rothman, one of Mr. Cutter's lawyers, said the SEC alleged only 7 of those sales were undisclosed. The trial in the U.S. District Court in Boston started Monday, April 14th, and ended this Wednesday, April 23rd, with the split verdict. Mr. Cutter, in a statement that was released Wednesday, called the outcome a victory and said the charges should never have been filed. Today, the jury found what we have been saying for more than 4 years. We did not intentionally or recklessly defraud any clients, the statement reads. The jury also found that we complied with applicable SEC rules about compliance policies and procedures. These are claims that should never have been brought in the first place. It is very difficult for a small business to stand up to federal government regulators and prevail, but that's what we did today. The statement goes on to say that the SEC did not argue that Mr. Cutter's actions led to the loss of clients' money, nor was Mr. Cutter charged with such an action. In a statement released by the SEC, Samuel J. Walden, the SEC's acting director of its Division of Enforcement, touted the SEC's victory on the one verdict it won in the case. We're pleased with the jury verdict holding Jeffrey Cutter and Cutter Financial Group, LLC, accountable for breaching their fiduciary duties to their clients, Mr. Walden states. As the hard work of the SEC team demonstrates, we will continue to hold investment advisors responsible when they engage in wrongdoing. The 7-day trial saw 5 hours of jury testimony. In all, Mr. Cutter's and the SEC's lawyers examined 19 people, including Mr. Cutter himself, his wife Jill Cutter, Paul Prada, one of the investigators with the SEC that built the case against Mr. Cutter, Susan Walker, the daughter of a former prospective client of Mr. Cutter's, and John Hanson, a former client of Mr. Cutter's. The judge in the case was Denise J. Casper. Mr. Cutter's financial group will continue its business as it remains focused on helping individuals and families make well-informed financial decisions with professionalism and care, the group's statement reads. In response to being asked whether the group will appeal the decision, Mr. Hoffman said no decision has been made yet. Any penalty on the loan count the SEC won is not expected until mid to late summer. The next headline, No Kings. Hundreds come out to protest the Trump administration. And there are several photos of people holding signs, some dressed in revolutionary garb, most just standing on the side of the road with signs. This is reported by Devin Ankeny. The folks that are in office are not honoring the Constitution, constitutional law, or congressional law, Allie Pitts said as she held a large homemade sign over her head on Saturday afternoon, April 19th, on the Falmouth Village Green. Her sign, on a brown sheet, read, "We the people are in a constitutional crisis." "I have to do something," she added as she stood on the green, alongside upwards of 600 other people who were there to express similar sentiments about the presidential administration's actions since Donald J. Trump's second inauguration in January. Similar protests were held in other states and dubbed 5501 for 50 protests, 50 states, one movement. The demonstrations were intended to coincide with the 250th anniversary of the start of the American Revolutionary War and carried a No Kings theme. People from Falmouth and beyond came to show support for science, LGBTQ+ people, federal employees, legal immigrants, and the rule of law, and to show dissent against an administration they see as infringing on freedom writ large. These protests are scheduled to become weekly events on the Green for the foreseeable future. I see this as a watershed moment for our country. I seriously do, protester Carol Suter said. And I'm not worried about myself. I'm worried about the grandchildren. What are they going to grow up to? Many attendees brought and raised homemade signs supporting certain causes or took different members of President Trump's administration to task. One read, "Deport Musk." Another, "Immigrants make America great." Yet another, "Resist stupid." Many signs referenced recent group deportations to an El Salvador prison, imprisonments bought and paid for by the Trump administration after declining to grant those deportees due process. Among the chants and remarks that attendees sang or shouted during much of the hour-long protest were classic American anthems and songs like "America the Beautiful" and the Pledge of Allegiance. U.S. Representative William R. Keating, Democrat from the 9th Congressional District, addressed the crowd, saying the American people will not bend the knee for President Trump. When he turns his back on the checks and balances that were put in our Constitution, that so many Americans gave their lives, sacrificed their lives to defend, Representative Keating said, shouting, dressed in a sweater and cap with a President John F. Kennedy Jr. Hyannis Museum logo, "We will not break." Many in the crowd enthusiastically shared their thoughts about the administration. Others, though, declined to share their names with the enterprise, fearing retribution of some sort. Some of those who did share their names described a sense of civic duty in coming out to the village green. Marit Burns, whose family escaped Latvia during Joseph Stalin's reign during World War II, said President Trump embodies what she was taught to fear. Ms. Burns was born in a displaced persons camp in Latvia in 1944. She said she hopes Americans will see the Trump administration's actions and come together, decidedly against the president. I grew up hearing about tyranny and people being sent off to Siberia, Ms. Burns said, alluding to the Trump administration's recent deportations of lawful, permanent resident Kilmar Armando Abrego Garcia. Mr. Garcia was sent out of the country due to an administrative error, the administration said. A past court order blocked his deportation to El Salvador, where he was ultimately sent anyway. So, yeah, I'm really psyched to be here. I hope I don't have to leave the country, she added. Like Ms. Burns, Pat Young, who's 88, and Henry Young, 91, came to protest what they see as a major departure from American norms. The married couple sat in folding chairs on the cobblestone triangle at the front of the village green, and there is a photo of the two of them sitting there smiling with signs that say, "Hands off our democracy." I didn't fight to have a Trump, Mr. Young said. A Korean War veteran, Mr. Young said he fought to protect American values abroad. He said he fought to protect his country. This time, I feel like I have to fight against it. The Youngs are from Sandwich. Also, they attended the April 5th hands-off protest, during which they sat in their folding chairs in the very same spot on the green. Others came to protest to focus on specific policy areas. Ms. Suter, a Falmouth resident, U.S. citizen, and former Canada resident, stood along West Main Street holding a Canadian flag attached to a fishing rod, as Ms. Suter, dressed in jeans, a Canada maple leaf sweatshirt, and a Canada hat, stood along the fence. The occasional driver would honk their car's horn. Most waved or pumped their fists in support of the protesters. Ms. Suter first learned to protest in Washington, D.C. in 1968, when she protested the Vietnam War. Since then, she hasn't protested. Until now. Julie S. Doohan held a sign that referred to Mr. Trump as a monster. She called Mr. Trump's second term thus far a nasty word and emphasized that the United States does not herald kings as leaders. Sandra Feynman Silva spoke to the crowd and led chants that supported science as a crucial tenet of American society. Protest organizer James B. Newman, who's also a volunteer at Mullenhall School and a member of the Falmouth Immigrant Rights Coalition, said the protests will go on until there's nothing left to protest. We're going to do it every Saturday, Mr. Newman said. If you can tell me when we don't have to anymore, we'll stop. Mr. Newman similarly took an organizing role in the weekly protests that were held from 2017 to 2021 during President Trump's first term. Protesting the president is no longer about instigating a change in behavior in the Oval Office, though Mr. Newman said he certainly hopes things will change. Rather, it is a mechanism for coming together, Mr. Newman said. In a presidential administration, practicing a flood-the-zone approach to policy and media communication, collective action can be a form of catharsis for some. It's actually kind of fun, Mr. Newman said. It felt good to be out here. When people say to me, "Well, it's not going to make any difference," my response is, "Well, it makes me feel better." In the minutes after the protest officially ended, some people trickled out of the village green. Others stayed, holding their signs and showing support for American democracy, spreading a message that the president's actions aimed at consolidating government power under a unitary executive is anti-American and will not be tolerated by the people. Our next headline in the Falmouth Enterprise of April 25th, Town Planners' New Duties Starting in July, by Katie Nelson. Changes are coming to the planning department. A positive vote on Article 4 at town meeting earlier this month is expanding town planner Jed Cornock's job. Come July 1st, Mr. Cornock will be the town's community development director. The new position, Mr. Cornock said, will include overseeing the Building Department, the Health Department, the Conservation Commission, the Zoning Board of Appeals, and the Planning Department. Mr. Cornock explained to the Planning Board this week that a Community Development Department will be formed and departments will become like divisions. It'll be similar to how the Department of Public Works is organized, Mr. Cornock said. The idea is to create more clarity for property owners, Mr. Cornock said. He added that the town departments are all currently operating efficiently, but going to several departments for permits can be confusing for property owners looking to build or renovate. Mr. Cornock said his new position is intended to create a more organized process for departments to work collaboratively on projects and to help property owners have a more streamlined, more straightforward process for acquiring various permits. Mr. Cornock also shared the news that Community Development Planner Michaela Shoemaker has resigned from the Planning Department in favor of new opportunities. The vacancy will be posted soon, Mr. Cornock said. Ms. Shoemaker's job as Community Development Planner included assisting in special projects, supervising zoning bylaw changes, and helping with the local comprehensive plan update. Mr. Cornock said the role will be transitioning to focus on historical commission reviews and attending historical commission meetings. Assistant Town Planner Melinda Tondera is currently filling that role on the commission. As the responsibilities shift, Mr. Cornock said Ms. Tondera's position will become more focused on overseeing day-to-day operations in the planning department. Chairwoman Charlotte Harris asked if Mr. Cornock would still be attending planning board meetings. Mr. Cornock said, "I'm not going anywhere." Member Paul C. Dreyer asked if there would be an increase in staffing to assist Mr. Cornock in his new position. Mr. Cornock answered quickly and said there will be no increase in staff. He added, "broad shoulders," which got a laugh from the planning board. And Mr. Dreyer wished Mr. Cornock good luck. The final story on the cover of today's Falmouth Enterprise of April 25th, Town Hires Coastal Resiliency Coordinator by Devin Ankeny. Joshua K. Wrigley of East Falmouth, who worked 7 years for the town of Sandwich as its Assistant Natural Resource Director, will start work as Falmouth's first ever Coastal Resiliency Coordinator on May 12th. The town has been working to establish and fill the post for the past 2.5 years. There were 67 applications for the job during this, the town's second attempt to fill the post. Last year, few applicants sought the position, and the town declined to offer the role to anyone. After that failed round of hiring, town management changed the position to make it more competitive, which included increasing the pay package. Mr. Wrigley has a vast amount of experience, town manager Michael Renshaw told the select board this week. We're excited to have him on board. Town meeting approved the new position in November of 2023. The Coastal Resiliency Coordinator was described as the lead role in advancing the town's efforts to address current and future impacts of sea level rise and climate change, per that meeting's warrant. Mr. Wrigley will take the helm on matters of beach and dune nourishment, as well as efforts to find the best methods for retaining beachfront and preventing infrastructure loss. As Assistant Natural Resource Director in Sandwich, Mr. Wrigley served as the liaison to the town's Conservation Commission and aided the Department of Natural Resources with land management, administration of the Wetlands Protection Act, animal control, and bylaw enforcement. Mr. Wrigley left his job in Sandwich in 2024 and went to work for the Woods Hole Group as the group's coastal permitting specialist. He said in a phone call with the Enterprise that he's looking forward to his new role, noting coastal resiliency is a complex process and looking at all the options is crucial. I think it's worth exploring every possibility for permissible projects in coastal resource areas, Mr. Wrigley said. There are a lot of options out there, and I think part of the challenge of creating a resilient coastline is being able to explore what the options are and be able to craft solutions with what you have on hand. Getting up to speed on the town's ongoing projects and capabilities is an immediate priority, he said. Mr. Wrigley stressed that he has a strong familiarity with municipal government and that his background in permitting will come in handy. I can't wait to get started, he said. Moving inside the paper, Early in-person voting starts May 10th by Devin Ankeny. Falmouth's annual town election on May 20th is more than 3 weeks away, but early in-person voting starts on Saturday, May 10th. At 10 a.m. that Saturday, polls will stay open in Town Hall until 2 p.m. Early voting will run the full week, ending on Friday, May 16th. In addition, voters interested in voting early by mail must apply to do so, and they can find access to the application on the town's website, falmouthma.gov/957/early-voting. On Election Day, polls will be open from 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. at the following locations. Precinct 1 voters will head to the polls at Falmouth Town Hall, 59 Town Hall Square. Precinct 2 voters will head to the polls at Falmouth Community Veterans Center, 300 Dillingham Avenue. Precinct 3 voters will head to the polls at the Falmouth High School's Gymnasium, 874 Gifford Street. Precinct 4 voters will head to the polls at St. Anthony's Lodge Building, 167 East Falmouth Highway. Precinct 5 voters will head to the polls at St. Elizabeth Seton Church Hall, 481 Quaker Road. Precinct 6 voters will head to the polls at Falmouth High School's Gymnasium, 874 Gifford Street. Precinct 7 voters will head to the polls at Wacoit Congregational Church Hall, 15 Parsons Lane. Precinct 8 voters will head to the polls at the Navigator Club, 55 Ashumet Road. And Precinct 9 voters will head to the polls at Jewish Congregation Community Center, 7 Hatchville Road. 2 bills seek refundable tax credit for septic upgrades is our next headline. This is reported by Katie Nelson. State Representative David T. Vieira, Republican from Falmouth, has proposed a bill that seeks to change the state's Title V septic tax credit from non-refundable to refundable. And State Senator Dylan A. Fernandez, Democrat from Falmouth, is preparing a bill to accomplish a similar goal. Both bills, if signed into law, would provide financial relief to residents who are mandated by the state to upgrade their septic systems to reduce nutrient loading of nearby water bodies. Non-refundable tax credits can only benefit one's tax bill to the point of breaking even at no taxes owed. With a refundable tax credit, the approved funds could actually benefit one's tax bill to the point of a refund if a refundable tax credit is worth more than the taxes one owes. Jonathan Kaufman, a member of the Falmouth Water Quality Management Committee, gave a presentation on progress being made by Senator Fernandez and Representative Vieira during the committee's recent meeting. Both bills are dealing only with septic tax credit, or to connect to a sewer line. The state's tax credit for those actions is $18,000. Mr. Kaufman said the process to approve the bill could take years, which is why both Representative Vieira and Senator Fernandez are pushing similar bills forward through the House and the Senate. The key difference between the two bills, Mr. Kaufman said, is that Representative Vieira's bill would allow residents to claim a full refundable credit, regardless of income or what they may owe in taxes. Representative Vieira's bill also includes a non-refundable tax credit for second homeowners. Homeowners would only be able to apply for one of the two credits. Senator Fernandez's bill, which is yet to be filed, will seek to provide support for lower-income property owners, and it would impose an income cap on the tax credit, making the bill revenue neutral. Citizens whose principal residence is in Massachusetts would be eligible. Water Quality Management Committee Chairman Stephen Rafferty said this is an important step in providing financial relief to residents. He also said the process of getting the bill on the governor's desk to sign into law could take years. Committee member Edward Jalowich pointed out that funding under the current presidential administration has been unpredictable. He wondered if expanding the bill, as Representative Vieira has done, to include secondary homeowners might be unappealing to the federal government because of the cost. Keep in mind, when they move to conference committee at some point, they're going to have to put these bills together, Mr. Kaufman said, and that's where the battle will be, he added. Zenas Crocker, executive director of the Barnstable Clean Water Coalition, asked if modeling of the age of septic systems and homeownership in the area would be helpful to get a projection of how much money could be required from the state in tax credits. Mr. Rafferty said modeling has not yet been done, and the legislature will figure out the budgetary needs. Mr. Kaufman added that Representative Vieira and Senator Fernandez are the only Cape officials working on bills such as these, but he's been in contact with other elected officials who he said all support the effort. There are several meetings scheduled for next week, from Monday, April 28th through Thursday, May 2nd. The Health Board will meet Monday at 5:30 p.m. in the Town Hall. The Select Board will meet Monday at 6:30 p.m. in the Town Hall. Conservation Commission will meet Wednesday at 7 p.m. via Zoom. The Freshwater Ponds Advisory Committee will meet Thursday at 4:30 p.m. in the library. The Zoning Board will meet Thursday at 6 p.m. at the Town Hall. And since there is a Select Board meeting, we will read their agenda, so one will know what to expect at that meeting. The Select Board set to meet Monday, April 28th at Town Hall. It will begin at 6:30 p.m. with open session. A, call to order, the Pledge of Allegiance, recognition, announcements, and then public comment. Committee interviews. A, interview and consider a vote to appoint committee members. Veterans Council Committee, Brian Callanan. Diversity, Equity, Inclusion, and Belonging Committee, Jim Newman. Short-Term Rental Advisory Committee, Dan Gessen, Cara Foley, Thomas Crane, Elizabeth Klein, Ann Pride, Kelly McKeon, and Charles McCaffrey. Public hearings. Shade Tree Hearing on application of the 300 Committee for the removal of one pitch pine and one red oak. Trees will impact the sightline of the new parking lot construction on Quaker Road opposite Highland Avenue. A shade tree hearing on application of the town engineer for the removal of 5 little leaf linden trees to accommodate the project to widen the intersection at Scranton Avenue and Main Street. Consider a vote to approve applications submitted by Magansett Circle, Inc., doing business as Daily Brew, for an entertainment license and a Sunday entertainment license to be exercised at 412 North Falmouth Highway in North Falmouth. Business. Consider a vote to approve an application submitted by Magansett Circle, doing business as Daily Brew, for a common victualler license to be exercised at 412 North Falmouth Highway in North Falmouth. Consider a vote to approve an application submitted by Seacoast Shores Association for a change of manager of its all-alcoholic beverages seasonal club license to be exercised at 7 Fairview Lane in East Falmouth. Discuss and consider a vote to approve Falmouth Housing Trust application to the Falmouth Affordable Housing Fund for $25,000 in funding for pre-development costs for their affordable housing project located at 419 Wacoit Highway. Presentation and discussion regarding the establishment of a cultural district. Discussion of statement from the Diversity, Equity, Inclusion, and Belonging Committee. Consider a request from Fast Signs Cape Cod for a variance to sign code 184-18C, measurement of sign area, for Haven Marina, 366 Menahont Road in East Falmouth. Consider the request from John Wesley United Methodist Church for a waiver of the special event permit fee for the Sunday beach services on Sundays from July 6th of 2025 to August 3rd of 2025, except July 13th and August 17th. Consider approval of a second-hand dealer license renewal for Cape Cod Gold and Silver Coin, located at 424 Main Street in Falmouth. The consent agenda. Licenses. Consider the request from Landfall Inc., doing business as Landfall Restaurant, 9 Luscombe Avenue in Woods Hole, to extend its seasonal all-alcoholic common victualler license until January 2nd of 2026. Consider a vote to approve an application by Marcantonis Restaurant Group, Inc., located at 117 Main Street, Falmouth, for a change of DBA for its all-alcoholic beverage restaurant license. Consider a vote to approve an application for a special one-day wine and malt liquor license, Gray Matter Marketing, Cape Cod Brewfest at Cape Cod Fairgrounds, 1220 Nathan Ellis Highway in East Falmouth, Saturday, 9/20/25 from 2 p.m. to 5:30 p.m. September 20th. Consider a vote to approve an application for a special one-day wine and malt liquor license of the Lupus Foundation of New England at the Cape Cod Food Truck and Craft Beer Festival at the Cape Cod Fairgrounds, 1220 Nathan Ellis Highway in East Falmouth on Saturday, August 16th from 11 a.m. to 5 p.m. Consider a vote to approve 3 special one-day wine and malt licenses: Fresh Pond Holy Ghost Society, 408 Carriage Shop Road in East Falmouth, Sunday, June 8th from noon to 6 p.m., Saturday, June 28th from 4 to 10 p.m., and Sunday, June 29th from noon to 6 p.m., Saturday, August 16th from 2 p.m. to 10 p.m. Consider a vote to approve a special one-day wine and malt beverages license for the West Falmouth Library's annual garden party, 525 West Falmouth Highway in West Falmouth on Saturday, June 14th from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. Consider a vote to approve a special one-day wine and malt beverages license for the West Falmouth Library's art show opening at 525 West Falmouth Highway in West Falmouth on August 13th from 5 p.m. to 8 p.m. Administrative orders. Approve warrant for the annual town election on May 20th. Consider a vote to approve a request from the Master Gardener Association of Cape Cod for a variance to sign code 184-30, movable, portable, or mobile signs for the placement of 5 off-premises promotional signs for plant sale at Cape Cod Fairgrounds on May 17th. Consider a vote to amend the charge for the East Falmouth Library Building Advisory Committee. Consider a vote to approve an intermunicipal agreement for the sale of surplus intermediate oyster seed from Falmouth to the town of Yarmouth. Consider a vote to authorize Marine and Environmental Services to file a 2025 Seaport Economic Council grant application. Consider a vote to appoint the Planning Board's nominee, Charlotte Harris, as its representative member of the Short-Term Rental Advisory Committee. Consider a vote to appoint the Falmouth Chamber of Commerce's nominee, Peg Ekholm, as its representative member of the Golf Advisory Committee. Then minutes. Review and vote to approve minutes of meetings, public sessions March 24th of 2025 and April 7th of 2025. Then the town manager's supplemental report and select board reports. And that's what to expect from the select board next week. We are well past the midway point in our reading when we usually move to the different kind of local news in the Falmouth Enterprise, the death notices, obituaries, and memorials that are listed. In today's Enterprise of Friday, April 25th, the first obituary is of Justine A. Bowen of West Falmouth, who passed on April 21st at the age of 92. She graduated from Malden High School in 1950 and after graduation worked in Boston as a legal secretary. In 1954, she married Richard Bowen, living in California, Oklahoma, and North Reading before settling in West Falmouth for the past 44 years. She leaves her children and her husband, Tom, of North Reading, as well as many friends and family. Visiting hours will be held Sunday, April 27th, from 2 to 5 p.m. at Chapman Funerals and Cremations in West Falmouth. A funeral mass will be said this Monday, April 28th, at 11 a.m. at St. Elizabeth Seton Church in North Falmouth, and the burial will follow at the Massachusetts National Cemetery. The next obituary is of Mary Sue Bachnecht, known as Sue B., who passed on April 14th at 85. She was a Falmouth resident for 62 years. Her children were by her side. She was the beloved wife of the late William E. Bachnecht, whom she was married to for 56 years, who died in 2015. A small service will be held on Monday, April 28th, this coming Monday, at 11:30 a.m. at the Massachusetts National Cemetery in Bourne. In lieu of flowers, any donations may be made to the Dementia Society of America, Multiple Myeloma Foundation, or your local hospice. The next obituary is of Robert S. Douglas, founder of the Black Dog Apparel Company, who passed on April 23rd at his home in West Tisbury at the age of 93. He was born in Chicago and was connected to Martha's Vineyard as a boy when his parents began renting a house at West Chop. Following a career as ship designer, he opened the Black Dog Tavern in Vineyard Haven. A mail-order apparel business followed in the 1980s, as well as brick-and-mortar shops along the East Coast, including Black Dog retail stores in Falmouth and Mashpee. He leaves his wife, 4 sons, and their families, with no public services planned at this time. The next obituary is of Lawrence T. James of East Falmouth, who passed at the age of 84 on April 14th. He was born in western Massachusetts and became a comedian. After moving to Orleans, he established Larry James Services, offering power washing, house painting, and repairs. Soon after marrying Martha F. Sabine on New Year's Eve in 1999, he moved to Falmouth. In addition to his wife of 25 years, he leaves many family and friends. Visiting hours will be held this Tuesday, April 29th, from 11:30 a.m. to 1 p.m. at Chapman Funerals and Cremations in Falmouth. The burial will follow at Oak Grove Cemetery in Falmouth. The next obituary is of Angela DeMichelle. With heavy hearts, we announce the passing of Angela DeMichelle, a vibrant woman who touched the lives of so many. Born in 1942, Angela was a strong, loving, fun, and faithful individual. She was a devoted wife, mother, loving grandmother, and a true friend. A mass celebration of Angela's life will be held May 9th of 2025 at 11 a.m. at Christ the King Parish in the chapel at 5 Jobs Fishing Road in Mashpee. The burial will follow at the Massachusetts National Cemetery in Bourne. Friends and family are invited to gather and share their memories, honoring the beautiful life she led. In lieu of flowers, the family asks that donations be made to St. Jude's Cancer Research, 501 St. Jude Place in Memphis, Tennessee, 38105, a cause close to Angela's heart. The next obituary is of Linda E. Cummings, who was born May 12, 1953 in Taunton, who passed on March 25, 2025, with her husband Jim by her side. Per her wishes, she was returned to her favorite childhood area, and her ashes were spread on a glorious sunny Cape Cod morning to rejoin her mother and grandpa. Linda is sorely missed, but remembered for the smile, the love, and happiness she brought everyone that knew her. Welcome home, Linda. The following residents, former residents, or family of residents of Bourne, Mashpee, and Sandwich recently died. Ralph A. Brown, 94, of Pecasset, died April 22nd. Jean E. Cook, 96, of Cohasset, died on April 10th. Franklin G. Guilfoy, 92, of Sandwich, died on April 18th. Linda A. Hickey, 76, of Forestdale, died on April 22nd. Shirley A. E. Rogers Laffler, 98, of Durham, New Hampshire, died April 14th. John A. McNeil, 83, of Pecasset, died April 6th. And Robert L. Weeks, 72, of Mashpee, died April 7th. And that concludes the obituaries, death notices, and memorials that are listed in the Falmouth Enterprise this week. From the news section, no new info about nails found on East Falmouth roads, by Devin Ankeny. There's a photo of a bunch of upturned nails that was found on John Parker Road. Police have released no new information regarding the nearly 500 nails found embedded point up on East Falmouth roads early last Friday morning, April 18th. Some of their nails had their heads pressed into tar patches, creating spike strips ready to impale the tires of cars passing by. Others were found pressed beneath the tires of cars parked in residential driveways. After finding the first batch while on patrol on John Parker Road, officers found nails on Clark Street, Old Barnstable Road, and Prince Henry Drive. all after 2 a.m. The Falmouth Police Department asks that anyone with information regarding the incident should contact Patrol Officer Cooper Chapman, who first found the nails. Police declined to provide more information about the incident when questioned later in the week. At this time, the nails incident remains under investigation, said Sergeant Elvira Ferrer. We are still encouraging people to contact Falmouth Police Department with any additional information. Planning Board eyes outdoor lighting rules and restrictions by Katie Nelson. Floodlight owners beware. Outdoor lighting regulations could soon be changing in Falmouth. The Planning Board this week discussed outdoor lighting regulations and considered creating a zoning or general bylaw to enforce dark sky compliance, which restricts lighting directed upward. Town planner Jed Cornock said there are many avenues the board could take to regulate outdoor lighting. Most of the Cape's towns that do enforce outdoor lighting do so by utilizing zoning bylaws. However, Mr. Cornock noted that zoning bylaws regulate land use, and lighting's not a land use. Mr. Cornock said the board could consider adopting a general bylaw that could apply throughout the whole town and would be more easily incorporated into site plan review requirements. Restrictions and requirements for residential, commercial, and industrial lighting uses will need to be thoroughly researched, Mr. Cornock cautioned. He advised the board to examine other bylaws that incorporate lighting restrictions in the region and use those bylaws as a template to create something that could apply to Falmouth. If the board does decide to move forward with creating a bylaw, Mr. Cornock advised the board to steer clear of single residential zoning districts and start instead with mixed residential commercial overlay districts known as Mr. COD. Mr. Cornock said Mr. COD districts have clear outlines for business and residential requirements and added that the board be respectful of each required use, both residential and commercial. He advised that the board consider changing lighting regulations to residential zone districts if there have been resident complaints. Chairwoman Charlotte Harris said that although she doesn't live in a single residential zoning district, she has experienced problems with outdoor lighting in her windows. When I realized that I had a lighting problem, that light was shining only in the winter through the trees when the leaves are down, directly into my bedroom all night long, I was so annoyed. So I went looking through the zoning bylaws to see where, they couldn't do that to me, and there's nothing there. The board went on to discuss dark sky compliant lighting. Mr. Cornock said the planning department will be working on a complete rewrite of the site plan review bylaw, which he said could incorporate a simpler way to mandate that lighting stay on the property it's coming from by requiring a lighting plan. This could be an easier process than creating a new bylaw, Mr. Cornock said. The planning board's lighting requirements could also ensure that lighting is placed in areas that make sense, like pedestrian walkways. The board could require strategic placement of lighting in areas that are not encroaching onto surrounding properties when possible, Mr. Cornock said. Members Robert Leary and John Drewley wondered if regulating outdoor lighting was necessary. I think it would be simple enough to say, these are the types of lights we want, and be done with it, Mr. Leary said. Mr. Drewley added that the process of enforcing a lighting bylaw seems daunting. The conversation will continue at future meetings. Ms. Harris asked that the board study bylaws that were adopted by other Cape towns and be prepared to share thoughts and ideas on the ongoing discussion. From the Enterprise Editorial Board. Start by believing. April is Sexual Assault Awareness Month, and one Cape Cod Police Department is encouraging residents to start by believing. No, it isn't one of our Upper Cape towns, but the message is important nonetheless, and maybe one of our towns will head up its own campaign next April. It's a worthy cause, after all. The town in question is Yarmouth. Parked in front of the Yarmouth Chamber of Commerce building on Route 28 is a Yarmouth Police Department cruiser wrapped with a message, urging folks to use their voices to prevent sexual assault, challenge victim blaming, and to stop the cycle of silence. Start by Believing is an international campaign to address sexual assault. It asks for a pledge to start by believing when someone tells me they were abused or sexually assaulted, support survivors on the road to justice and healing, and help end the silence. According to the campaign, most victims of sexual and domestic violence not only never report to law enforcement what's happened to them, but also never tell anyone what's happened. This leaves the victim without help or justice while the abuser remains free. In addition to empowering victims, Start by Believing offers training so that people can be better advocates for those who are survivors of sexual and domestic violence. By preparing loved ones and professionals to respond appropriately to disclosures, we help to improve outcomes for victims, one response at a time, the website states. While a number of campaigns have existed in recent years to encourage believing people who say they've been abused, we can't recall if a police department has ever been as vocal about it as we're seeing Yarmouth be right now. According to a map on the startbybelieving.org website, the only police department on Cape Cod that's made this pledge is Yarmouth. On Nantucket, A Safe Place Inc., an organization dedicated to helping abuse survivors, has also pledged with Start by Believing. The only other police departments in the state to have signed on are Cambridge and Somerville. Most pledges have been made by organizations dedicated to putting an end to violence toward women and children, which is fitting considering that these are the demographics most likely to be victimized. While the majority of pledges have happened in the U.S., campaigns also exist in Africa, Canada, Europe, and Australia. We applaud the Yarmouth Police for taking this initiative and urge our Upper Cape departments to jump on board too. For a survivor, knowing that members of law enforcement are committed to listening and believing can be vital. Knowing you'll be taken seriously could mean the difference between someone reporting or not. But we don't limit our call to action solely to law enforcement. Individuals can help enact change as well. Believing a survivor can make all the difference, not just for them, but also for potential future victims. Katie Goers is the web editor and the editor of the Sandwich Enterprise. A heads up that real estate tax bills are due. The fourth quarter fiscal year 2025 real estate tax bills are due by Thursday, May 1st. Postmarks of May 1st will not be accepted. Payment is considered timely when it's received by the Falmouth Collector's Office. Bills can be paid online using all major credit cards. A fee is charged. Or a checking account transfer. Again, a fee is charged at falmouthma.gov. Click on the Pay Online icon on the homepage. This is also the place to locate tax bills. Payments also can be made by using the drop box at the front of Town Hall, or what might be easier for some of our listeners, by phone at 844-329-8360. Again, 844-329-8360. And since I just gave you a number that you might not have had time to write down, it's a good time to remind you that if you miss any of the information that we share in our readings, you can always go to audiblelocalledger.org. Click on the Listen tab. It's a fully compliant with disability needs website, and you can catch up on anything that you might have missed. We also keep a wide variety of periodicals and literature up there for your enjoyment, as well as shopping guides for what's on sale at the supermarket, all of which is free for people who are blind or print disabled at audiblelocalledger.org. Senator Fernandez hosts Public Forum on Bridges by Katie Nelson. At the first of a series of public forums hosted by State Senator Dylan A. Fernandez, a Democrat from the Plymouth and Barnstable district last week, residents asked questions, offered suggestions, and shared their criticisms on the Massachusetts DOT's plans to construct new bridges in Sagamore and Bourne. Before the opening of the forum in Admiral's Hall at Mass Maritime, the 400-seat lecture hall was more than half full. No one in the audience opposed replacing the existing 90-year-old bridges. Senator Fernandez said he has had to white-knuckle it over the bridge before. His comment was met with audible recognition of similar experiences from the audience. Senator Fernandez said that the bridges were the best of their kind when they were built 90 years ago. Louisa M. Pewanski, Executive Director of Mass DOT's Mega Projects Delivery Office, presented a brief report on progress, environmental permitting, field work, property acquisitions, and next steps for the bridges project. Ms. Pewanski presented a proposed design for the new Sagamore Bridge, which boasts 6 12-feet wide lanes, 3 that head on Cape and 3 that head off, 2 shoulders for breakdowns, and a 14-feet wide mixed-use bicycle and pedestrian path. It'll keep people safe with fencing while allowing them to enjoy the view, she said. Ms. Pawonsky pointed out that the twin network arch design for the new bridge is a modernized version of the iconic arch of the existing Cape Cod bridges. Residents had suggestions for alternate plans, including filling in the canal and/or constructing a tunnel rather than bridges. Some homeowners in the Round Hill neighborhood will be losing their homes due to eminent domain, and many came to the forum to express their anger. I want you to see some of the faces of the lives you're tearing apart, Mr. Hendel said to a row of Mass DOT directors on the stage. Mark E. and Joan Hendel were among 11 other homeowners in the Round Hill area who were told their homes will be seized via eminent domain in roughly 2.5 years. I want you to see some of those faces, Mr. Hendel said to a row of Mass DOT directors. Mr. Hendel said that the area where his home is now would be used for staging and construction machinery, and then would eventually become green space. Ms. Pawonsky said the land will have a permanent use. Cranes and construction machinery will be on the site first, then retaining walls and platforms will be constructed. And when the work is completed, the site will be used for drainage and stormwater management. Mr. Hendel asked if federal funding for the project is guaranteed under the current administration, as funding in departments across the government are reconfigured. Most of the discussion centered around the Sagamore Bridge, which will be the first to be replaced. Funding the estimated $2.1 billion price tag for that bridge has already been secured by federal grants. In July, Massachusetts was announced as the recipient of a $993 million federal grant for the bridge's replacement program. The program has also received $372 million from the Federal Multimodal Project Discretionary Grant Program. In addition, the Massachusetts congressional delegation secured $350 million for the bridges in the fiscal year 2024 Energy and Water Development Appropriations Act, which was signed by President Joseph Biden, Jr. Preliminary analyses have shown that the environmental impacts will be relatively small, Ms. Pawonsky said. She added that less than 5,000 square feet of wetlands will be impacted by construction. Field work is currently underway. The data collected will help to complete the environmental impact statement and environmental impact report, which are expected to be filed by this summer, Ms. Pawonsky said. Survey crews, engineers, and borings for subsurface soil collection will be seen near the future construction site, she said. David Collins of Eleanor Avenue asked the panel why tunnels weren't being considered to replace the bridges. Mr. Collins wondered if tunnels could be less expensive than constructing new bridges. David Anderson of HNTB Corporation said tunnels were considered, but the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers Major Rehabilitation Evaluation Report indicated tunnels weren't the best option. Mr. Anderson said the report showed tunnels would be more disruptive to the environment, and the costs associated with drainage, gas lines, electricity, and ventilation ruled out tunnels. Tunnels are unsafe for pedestrians, Mr. Anderson added. About a dozen citizens shared their thoughts on the inevitable project. Senator Fernandez reminded the audience that this session was the first of many opportunities for residents to ask questions and share their thoughts on the project. Ms. Pawonsky said a conservative estimate for construction of the new Sagamore Bridge is 8 to 10 years, and construction will begin when preliminary work is completed. From 2026 to 2028, Mass DOT will continue environmental studies, attain state and federal permits, complete designs, and hire construction and design contractors. Construction of the new Sagamore Bridge could possibly be completed by 2038, she said. And with that, we've come to the end of our reading of the Falmouth Enterprise for Friday, April 25th. 2025. This is your reader, Eric, saying be well, be safe, look after each other, and remember our veterans, especially those we've lost recently. Bye for now.